Hey guys, it's Jagel. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to complete the Endsingers Aria Extreme trial that just released with patch 6.1 for Endwalker. It's not a very difficult trial. It's pretty easy. I think we got it done in like 2.5 lockouts or something, so you guys should totally be able to knock this guy out. The DPS check isn't too bad. I would also like to just say before we get into this that I'm not a professional guide maker. I just started doing this in Endwalker, so any constructive criticisms you guys have, please leave a comment and let me know if there's something you think I can do better. I'm always willing to try to improve the quality of the videos. That being said, let's go ahead and just get right into it so you guys can learn the fight. Okay, so in typical FF fashion, the fight's going to start off with Elegia Unforgotten, which is going to be a raid-wide AoE on the group. It's not anything too crazy, just normal mitigation and healing. We'll get you guys right through it. Next, she is going to spawn some planets, just like in normal guys. We've seen these mechanics before. Whenever the two planets collide, we are going to deal with an effect that they will generate, either being a knockback or a large circle AoE. We're going to be able to tell the difference between these because the blue planets will be our knockback planets, and the red planets will be our circle AoE planets. That's how we're going to know what to do, and this will also show this telegraph every time, so you can kind of see where you're going to get knocked back, because you can't see it from right here, but there's a head that she has in the center that's going to do a half arena cleave every time this goes off. Let's go ahead and move forward in the video so you guys can get a clear look at that. So we're going to get knocked back behind the head. As you can see, we're behind it right now. She's facing this direction, which means this half of the arena is going to become unsafe. So we want to make sure we're getting knocked back away from the head whenever that goes off. Next, we'll have another raid-wide AoE, and then the opposite planet will happen. This time we are going to have the AoEs. Just dodge accordingly. Again, we have the head in the middle doing the arena cleave as well, so make sure we're moving out of the way of that. Alright, here's the first real mechanic of the fight. As you can see, everybody has these chains above their heads, and we have some towers on the side of the arena. Now, before you start the fight, you should set up clock spots and light party groups and tower soaks. The way we did it is we had tanks and healers on the right, DPS on the left, and we did melees in the front and ranged in the back. So what's going to happen is everybody that has these chains above their head is going to get tethered to another player, and we need to break the chains because they're going to give us a vuln stack and do damage to us when they go off. So the way that we solved this was we had the DPS run to the left to break their tethers. We met in the middle, DPS went left, tanks and healers went right, and then we just went to our assigned tower positions on that side. So we had a tank here, healer, healer, and then we had a melee, ranged is how we handled that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and clean this off and let you guys see the mechanic play out so you can understand how it resolves. We're grouped up in the middle. Chain timers go out. I pop expedient here typically. I didn't on this pull, but that's something you can do if you're a scholar. Then we go into our towers for our soaks. And we also need to be paying close attention to what's going on the Endsinger's face right now, because we're either going to get a middle or a side cleave just like in normal. If it's her mouth glowing, as you can see right here, we are going to have to deal with a middle cleave. So we need to get out of our towers. So how we did this is we would just pre-position in the side of the tower based on wherever we were going to get cleaved and then move accordingly. So since it's the mouth, we need to get out of the middle. If it would be her eyes, then we would want to go into the middle. I ate that one. Don't do what I did. As you can see, I didn't pre-position in my tower properly. Then we'll all meet up in the middle. Another raid-wide AoE is going off there. Then we have Hubris, which is just going to be a buster on each tank. Heavy mitigation is recommended here. Elegia Unforgotten is another raid-wide AoE. Now we're going to have some planet explosions to deal with again. We're going to want to make sure we're getting knocked back away from the head. Now we're going to have light party stacks this time. As I said earlier, we're going to want to have clock spots and light parties for this. This is why. This is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout this fight. Now these are going to be rewound and the planets will go off again. You'll know which ones are going to go off first because they'll be moving quicker as the other ones kind of appear in a stasis until after the first ones go off. So we'll want to get knocked back behind the head, close to the other ones, and then knocked back again behind the head. And this again is going to be followed by another center cleave or side cleave. Again, watch her mouth or her eyes to know which one we're going to have to do. Alright guys, heads. This is the first kind of difficult mechanic of the fight. So how this works is the middle head that we see here has an arrow facing off of it, and this is telling us which direction it's going to cleave. This head is going to do a half arena cleave. Okay? And then we're going to have two heads that are going to have a donut AoE on them, and two of them that are going to have a circle AoE. Obviously, we need to stand inside the ones with the donut AoE. That's going to be our safe spot. Once we do that, this mechanic is going to go off 3 times. We're going to rotate clockwise. We're going to rotate clockwise every single time. These heads rotate clockwise and repeat these mechanics, and they cycle through these heads. You can watch as it plays out here. We've got the east cleave going off. Then we're going to rotate clockwise. That AoE is going to go off. Then we're going to rotate clockwise again. Next AoE. And we're good to go. Then we're going to go back to the middle again, close to the center head. Okay, guys, this is where things get interesting. Now, we need to keep a mental note of what's going on in the mechanic up to this point, because what's happening right now is each one of these rings is going to cause that head to rewind that many mechanics. So in the middle here, we have 3 rings, 3 gold rings around this center head. So since she started east, that's where it's going to be, because it's going to rewind back to the start of the mechanics. If it has a 1 on it, like this one here, it's going to go back to the most recent mechanic that it has completed. And if it has 2, it will go back 2 steps. So in this case, what's going to happen is 4 and 1 were our starting safe spots. These were our safe areas. And 3 and 2 were danger. So how we're going to identify our safe spot is going to be number 4, and the reason why we know it's going to be number 4 is because it's going to go back to the most recent mechanic that went off, and this one was safe in the last set that we just did, and the cleave will be going east. We know that, so nothing on this side is going to be safe. We know that immediately. And then we know that this is going to rewind to the last step that it was. 4 was our last safe spot. That's where we will start. And when that last one goes off, guys, we will have to deal with that light party soak there, followed by a tank buster and a raid-wide AoE. Now for this big circle AoE, we're going to go to our clock spots. Now, we have Despair Unforgotten. This is the next major mechanic of the fight. So I like to think of this mechanic really similar to Intermediate Relativity from E12S last raid tier. We will get either a flare, a stack, or a large AoE, and we need to use our assigned clock spots we set at the beginning of the fight as our indicators of where to go. If we get the large pink circle AoE or a flare marker, we will go to our clock spots. If we get a stack marker or a small red donut AoE, we will go to the center. This will also be followed up with another mid or side cleave. Again, we want to take mental note of what mechanics are happening here again, because like we just saw with her heads, the same thing is going to happen when this mechanic resolves. We are going to get gold rewind rings around each player, telling us which mechanic is going to go off on us again, and we'll basically have to do it one more time. So as you can see, I've got 1 gold ring, which is rewind 1 mechanic. My last mechanic was to stand in the middle, so we're just going to stay in the middle and stack. Next, we're going to have Telomania. This is 4 back-to-back raid-wide AoEs that do a pretty large amount of damage, and it's also going to be followed up by a moderate bleed. Heavy shielding and mitigation is recommended here, as well as maybe some trickles or regions here if necessary. Next, Endsinger is going to spawn clone heads again around the arena and shoot lasers out of her mouth. The laser rings will then make contact with the heads around the arena. Every head that gets a laser ring around it will do a large circle AoE. So we need to identify the head that's not going to be hit by a laser ring, which will become our safe spot. This mechanic is followed by a few mechanics that we are already familiar with. Elikos, Hubris, the dodge and tank busters with more raid-wide AoEs. But from this point on, it's pretty much just a repeat. We're going to have one kind of big variation on the planet collisions, which we're going to go over here in just a second. All right, we have a red planet collision, same thing. Then we're going to have light party stacks right after, avoiding the head cleave. That's still a thing. Impact event is being recorded. We know this. We've seen this in normal. It's going to do the same thing. We're going to have to deal with the knockback and the AoEs at the same time now, as well as the head cleave in the middle. So we need to watch for which of the blue planets will go first. It'll be the ones that are moving. Knockback towards the other blue planets. Now we need to get knocked back into the safe spot from the red AoE that's about to go off, and then run across to the other side of the arena to get away from the other one. There's plenty of time to do this, and obviously you don't want to stand in it like I did here. This time the towers don't have any chains, so we don't have to deal with that mechanic, but we do have the cleave afterwards. Luckily our other healer got off a really clutch LB3 here before he went down and revived the group. We probably wouldn't have cleared on this pull. Then we're going to have Telomania again, the 4 high damage attacks back to back, followed by a bleed. And that's it, guys. From here on out, the mechanics just repeat. It's everything that we've already seen. Use the knowledge that you've gained about the fight from watching the video and go on in there and kill her. Get your 595 item level weapons and maybe a mount if you're lucky. And thanks again, guys, for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this guide or it helped you kill the boss, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Thanks so much and have a nice day.